Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Lynn and today I am going to do a bit of foiling. I will show some finished cards after all of the foiling, but I'm gonna actually keep most of the foiling in and super speed up the cards because I think the cards are pretty simple, and I don't think I have too many videos where I actually show how to foil, so I thought that this would be a good one to really focus on the foiling. There are some fabulous new releases to hit Spellbinders, and I'll be crafting with several different collections actually. But if you've never hot foiled before, what I have on screen here is the Spellbinders Glimmer Machine. It does work with, you do need a die cutting machine in order to complete the foiling process. It obviously will work with the Spellbinders Platinum, both the 6-inch one and the larger A4 platform one, and as well it is compatible with other machines. Although the machines that it's compatible with have to accept that large sort of base platform. So a notable exception would be the Gemini electric die cutting machines. Those wouldn't be able to accept the Glimmer. When you get your Glimmer, it does come with some Glimmer plates and some foils, so you can get started right away. All you have to do is there's a rocker switch on the back. You turn that on and you'll see that red light, the topmost light on the left there, that should glow to indicate that the machine is on. When the platform has warmed up enough, you'll see that second light come on as it just did. And when that comes on, then the machine is ready for you to put a Glimmer plate onto it. And what I like to do, Spellbinders does have a handy cutting tool, but I use this one, this little mat and plus the magnetic ruler I find pretty helpful. And this is just a foil blade trimmer that is actually also from Spellbinders. So how you want to start foiling is you want to lay your Glimmer plate, the solid flat side down with the raised side up. You want to put your foil pretty side down. So here the pretty side is that teal and the back of the foil is that silver. Then your cardstock. Again, the correct side, just depending on if you're using papers that have an explicit front versus back, you want the front side facing down. And then the two plates that come with your Glimmer machine. When you have that set, you want to push the button that's below all three lights, and that will cause that third light to blink green as it is right now. When it's solid, you want to unplug the platform and then roll that through your die cutting machine. You want to roll it through, just the one time should be plenty, but roll it through at a kind of a slow pace. Don't try to really crank it through. Just take your time with it. Let it go through nice and slow so you get nice even pressure. Hot foiling is different from foiling, say, with your laminator or a similar machine. The other types of foils are what's considered transfer foils. Hot foils actually require both the heat and the pressure to actually transfer that foil onto your substrate or cardstock in this case. And so the heat is being applied through the Glimmer machine. The pressure is being applied through your die cutting machine. So you need the combination of both to get a really strong transfer. And what you'll see as a result is that not only do you get all of that beautiful shine from the foil, but you also get, it's actually debossed a little bit because the pressure pushes that foil into your cardstock. So this first one, this is the first time I've tried this satin pastel foil. I actually picked it up during the warehouse clearance sale. There was a 4-pack and it's really pretty. It doesn't have that silvery back to it because it is a satin, more of like a matte finish. So it's gorgeous, and I love foiling that onto solid color cardstock for that tone on tone look. And I'm actually gonna do a another one in purple. I might have done that one off camera, but I love the effect of it. So I'll be looking to see what other foils I have that have maybe some matching cardstock, solid color cardstock, to try that some more. Now, if you do end up transferring a little bit of foil onto your plate, as I just did, it's not the end of the world. That's not going to actually transfer onto your next foiling, so don't worry about that. If it bugs you not to have pristine plates, I think there's a way to remove that. I want to say maybe acetone, but I could be wrong. You could probably just do a search on YouTube, and I'm sure there might be some suggestions as to how to clean that. But it doesn't hurt or harm anything, so you can just as well leave it, and everything will function just fine. Now, anytime I turn my foiling machine on, I do like to foil up some sentiments, because sentiments being as small as they are, if I wanted to add a spot of foiling in the way of a sentiment, I'm likely not going to turn on my machine just to foil one little thing. So that's why I always like to have in my stash ready to go a lot of sentiments. And so every time I foil, I just look to see which sentiment set I'm low on, and then I'll just glimmer up a bunch. So here what I'm doing is I've just cut a section of gold foil. Gold seems to be like a really safe bet and one that I use most often, and covered as much of this card panel as possible. And then I'll, these glimmer plates here, these sentiments are actually, I just picked them up on the clearance sale. So one is from the Stitched Alphabet Descriptors, and the other is, I can't remember actually from what collection it was, but they are the two most recent Glimmer sentiment sets that I have. And all I'm going to do is space these on my foil so that there's a nice gap in between each plate. That way, when I go to cut this down, I'll be able to create little banner strips from them. You don't want to position these foil plates super close to each other, because you're not going to have enough space to cut in between each sentiment. So I do give myself about quarter of an inch, 3/8 of an inch or so. And I'm gonna load up this panel with as many sentiments as I can. I often cut down my paper to USA 2 size and just foil one panel at a time, whatever the design happens to be. That way, sometimes when I'm foiling, I try to position the glimmer design as if I'm going to use that panel in full. And then sometimes I foil onto these panels just trying to be as efficient as possible and fit as many foilings as possible, knowing that I'll either die cut them or, in the case of the sentiments, cut them down into strips. But either way, it's still helpful to just use the small panels. They are USA 2 in size, 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, which is convenient because I buy cardstock in US letter, so I can get 4 panels out of one sheet of cardstock. Now, speaking of what to foil onto, I have found the most success with the Spellbinders Glimmer Specialty Paper. It's a little bit more spendy, but I feel like it's totally worth it for the fact that I get very consistently good results. And so I think it's worth it to not have that frustration of over or under foiling. And not wasting your hot foil, because in the past when I've had sort of spotty success foiling, and I think there's a little bit of a learning curve, and every die cutting machine is going to be a little bit different, so you may have to adjust things a little bit. But I've found in the past it's been a little bit frustrating, not only to not get the results that I want, but also, you know, to feel like I'm wasting my foil by not getting those good results. So I really feel like, even though it costs a little extra, that the Glimmer specialty paper from Spellbinders is well worth it. Up until I started using that Glimmer specialty paper, I was having really good success with the Hammermill 100-pound super smooth 100 super bright. It's the digital color copy paper. I use it for alcohol marker coloring as well, and I found that it glimmered up really well, and I was very happy with the results I was getting with Hammermill, until I tried the Glimmer specialty paper from Spellbinders, and then I truly realized like how great it is to glimmer with confidence that it's going to work beautifully, because it was designed by Spellbinders, and I'm sure they did a lot of testing to make sure that it would work. And in particular, because my whole system is Spellbinders, so I have the Spellbinders Platinum machine, and I have the Glimmer machine, and I'm using the Spellbinders foils. So everything I'm using is Spellbinders, which I'm sure they've made sure to test very rigorously on their entire product line. If you have a different machine, if you are using different foils, different papers, different substrates may work better for you. And as well, if you're finding that you're getting a lot of underfoiling where the entire design hasn't transferred, you might need to add a cardstock shim or two in order to increase the pressure so that it transfers more completely. The other thing that I found that works really well, you saw the solid color cardstock, the pink cardstock that I foiled onto. That was also Spellbinders cardstock. It is also 100-pound. So I have found, just for my machine, my experience and setup, that 100 pounds seems to be the sweet spot in terms of paper weight. And that has worked with the Hammermill white cardstock that I use, the Spellbinders solid color cardstock. Now, I was surprised that the Glimmer specialty paper works as well as it does, because I think it's only 80 or 90 pounds, so I wasn't too sure if being thinner would make a difference, but it works beautifully and is the most consistent out of everything. Now, this is that same bit of foil that I glimmered all of my sentiments onto, and remember how I said I left a gap in between each glimmer plate so that I would have room on my cardstock to actually trim in between each sentiment? Well, I'm still going to use that same piece of foil, and now I'm going to put my glimmer plate in between each of the previously glimmered areas. So where there's some solid foil, I'm putting a glimmer plate onto a fresh panel. And because even though this piece of foil has it's been heated up, it's passed through the die cutting machine, it's still going to work perfectly well to foil the areas that were not transferred in that first pass. So don't toss this. Fill all of those little gaps with more sentiments because they fit perfectly. And I even went ahead and used a solid foil glimmer foil plate to foil the remaining as a third pass to get the negative image of these sentiments. I don't know if that panel is going to be useful because all of the sentiments are going to be pretty close together, but you never know, and you may as well do it because otherwise you're just going to throw that away. So I just foiled it onto some Hammermill paper and not my Glimmer specialty paper, which is a little bit more spendy. So So that's what I use, and hopefully a little bit more about how to do hot foiling. The one thing that you want to keep in mind is that you can use any hot foil. You may need to change and adjust things a little bit, but there are different brands of hot foil. So for example, I know Crafter's Companion sells a hot foil. We Are Memory Keepers or We Are Makers sells a hot foil. Those foils are different from transfer foils. So your deco foil, your mink foils, those are transfer foils that are applied through like a transfer medium, some kind of sticky medium. And so those operate on a slightly different, in a different way, and you may not get the same success that you would using proper hot foils. So there are two different types of foils, but you can try different brands. But as I mentioned, if you are using everything Spellbinders, I think you're going to set yourself up for the most success, because obviously they've probably tested everything with their own product lines. So I think you're gonna see the best success using all the things from Spellbinders. But don't let that stop you from exploring, especially glimmer plates. I think glimmer plates will all more or less work from different brands. So definitely you don't have to exclusively stick to Spellbinders. But in terms of the foiling, the substrate, the die cutting machine, I think I find the most success when I'm using, all things from Spellbinders. Now, some glimmer plates, as with the Hexi Gem Bloom set here, do come with coordinating dies, which is really nice. And often the sentiment collections also come with a banner die too. But the first thing I like to do is sort of clean up all of my foiling. So I like to use this. It's a soft, it's actually a Swiffer wipe for dusting like around your house. And it's nice because it's kind of fluffy. It's got that texture to it that's gonna grab, dust and whatnot. But it's soft and not abrasive, so it's not going to scratch your foiling if you just wipe across the entire panel. But what it will do is pick up any stray bits of foil that didn't come off cleanly, but didn't actually transfer and stick onto your card, which is really with the Glimmer specialty paper, the most that I get is everything actually glimmers perfectly. It's just when I peel off that plastic liner, then sometimes it doesn't sort of peel off cleanly, and it grabs a little bit of extra foil, and that stuff easily wipes off. If you do get some overfoiling, in that there's some foil that's transferred to your paper that is not part of the design, what you can try to do is use a white eraser and erase over that. I have found that if you accidentally erase over your foil design, it won't actually harm or lift your foil design because it's been pressed into the paper. So to really remove that, you would have to have something kind of abrasive. But otherwise, the white eraser seems to do pretty well with getting rid of a bit of overfoiling. If you have a lot of overfoiling and it's being stubborn and it won't lift with a white eraser, you could try a sand eraser, which is abrasive. So if you have to use your sand eraser, you want to be careful not to erase over your glimmered image. Because it could actually scratch it and remove foiling. But if you're just trying to remove some overfoiling that is being extra, kind of stuck to your cardstock, then try that. One thing with the Glimmer specialty paper, while it's called a paper, it is actually a little. I think it's sort of plasticky, kind of like Yupo paper. So it is very super smooth, but you'll find that it feels different from your regular paper. And so coloring onto it may be a little bit different because of that. Because it's going to be a little, I think it's non-porous. So if you color, let's say you glimmered an image and you want to color it with your alcohol markers or your watercolor pens, it will react a little bit differently than if you had foiled onto cardstock like a hammer mill. So just bear that in mind, that you might get some differences there. So let's talk a little bit about all the different collections that I'm crafting with. So this is part of the ADHESIVES. This is another new shape nested die set, and it's really fabulous. It's kind of like an elongated hexagon, which I think makes it a little bit different and interesting. And I'm actually using the pattern, this sheet of pattern paper is actually from the May 2023 Quick and Easy Card Kit of the Month. It's got little rainbows on it, which I thought were really cute to combine with the sentiment that I have here. This is from the Glimmer card collection, and it's Card Full of Hugs, which is really, really adorable. These sentiments are huge. As you can see, it takes up darn near the whole card front, and I think that's awesome. And the other thing that I think that's really unique and awesome about this particular collection is that the font is very casual. A lot of times when I see glimmered sentiments, it's very fancy fonts, and so I like having this, which is a little bit more whimsical and fun, because then I feel like it's great for cards for even kids and whatnot, which, you know, they deserve cards with that little bit of extra special touch of the foil as well. So love that. This panel here I created with modern stripes. This is from the new Simon Hurley photosynthesis collection, and I think I'm going to use this one a lot because there's way more to explore with this one. It comes in the set of 3 plates that are about 1 inch wide and will cover and extend that full height of a USA 2 panel. So it stretches longer than 5.5 inches. And the 3 plates differ in the width of the stripes that get foiled. So you have a thin, a medium, and a large. And you can do what I've done here, where you foil it going in one direction and then you lay it perpendicular and foil again. Right over that initial foiling, you can cross over it and it's just fine. And where I think there's room for a lot of experimentation is I want to try mixing some of the satin foils with some of these more metallic foils, because I think the satin foils, they look to be a little bit more translucent. So I'm curious to try that and see how it looks when it's overlapping other colors. So I think there's a lot to experiment there, and that one I think is just really fun because you could just glimmer up, you know, all of your different foils into these strips and trim them down. And you know, I use my Love from Lizzys pinstripe stickers all the time. Well, if you don't get those, because they do ship out of the UK, so it can be shipping can be a little bit expensive. This is one way you could maybe have some of those, that beautiful sort of metallic strips, and just cut them down, and you can use all of your gorgeous different foils and all the different colors they come in. So a lot of fun, and I think that one's going to be super fun to work with. This is another sentiment. It's a giant thank you from that Glimmer card collection, which is, I think, fabulous. There's lots of really fun sentiments in that collection. So I picked the 2 that I thought I would use the most. And When I'm foiling, all of my cards are pretty simple because I feel like the foil is what really makes it special. And this one in particular is gold, but it's sort of an iridescent gold. I'll try to link to all the different foils that I use in the description box, as well as the various products. But I love clean and simple is really hard for me, and leaving a lot of white space is really hard. But when you have beautiful foiling like this, it does make it a lot easier because that foiling I feel makes it really special. So I know that's a really simple card, but sometimes I think that's all you really need for certain occasions. And I love the Hexy Bloom. This is really beautiful floral spray, and I am really enjoying the tone on tone foiling, so I'm definitely gonna scan my stash of foils and see what other solid color cardstocks, plus hot foil combinations I can create for that tone on tone look. And then here is a giant thank you and the card full of hugs. These are from the Glimmer card collection, and really fun. The nested shape dies, that's from the Hexy Gems collection. So lots of fun. I always have a blast foiling, and my biggest tip is definitely, if you're gonna foil some extra sentiments. You can see I didn't use any of them here, but I have them and they are ready to use for next time I need just that touch of foiling on a card. Thanks so much for joining me today. Until next time, happy crafting and have a fabulous day. Bye.